Welcome to Quarantine History of Otter Tail County. I'm your host, Chris Schuelke from the Otter Tail County Historical Society. In commemoration of Historic Preservation Month, for the past several weeks, we have explored a number of historic buildings throughout Otter Tail County, and we conclude our series today by examining several more sites, beginning right here in Henning. Located in the heart of Otter Tail County, the village of Henning and the township it is located were initially known as Peace Prairie. The township was changed to East Battle Lake and then to Henning in 1884 after the village had also been renamed. Peace Prairie got its name from Benjamin Peace, who, while traveling through the area, noted the unique combination of prairie, woodland, and water. The name Henning was given as a tribute to John Henning, a respected Northern Pacific Railroad section foreman. He told town leaders that if his name was chosen for the village, he would donate a bell to the first church, a promise he kept. The first church bell, courtesy of John Henning, was hung in the steeple of the Norwegian Lutheran Church. So since that humble beginning, the people of Henning have developed a distinct pride in their community. And this has been demonstrated in recent years as the city has banded together to save several historic landmarks. Trinity Church was organized on March 25, 1878, as the Scandinavian Evangelical Lutheran Trinity Congregation. Their first church was constructed in 1886 and was later sold to the town's Methodist congregation. This Gothic-style building, with its unique twin spires, was constructed in 1898. In 1957, Trinity merged with the Leaf Lake and United Lutheran congregations to form Good Shepherd Lutheran Church. St. Edward's later purchased the building and used it for their services until 2003. After that, the building was largely neglected until the city purchased the tax-forfeited property. After that, a group of local activists formed Save the Trinity in 2015, and since then has worked to preserve the former church. Trinity Church was added to the National Register in 2018. So getting a property listed on the National Register is a long and arduous process. But the process has started on a second Henning landmark located on the edge of the downtown business district. Join me as we explore that property. Well, here we are on the edge of downtown Henning, and behind me is a building now known as the Landmark Center. This building was constructed originally as the office and residence of Dr. A.J. Lewis. Arthur Lewis was born in Stevens Point, Wisconsin. After graduating from medical school in Chicago, Lewis and his wife Clara set up a practice in Deer Creek. He came to Henning in 1911, where he practiced medicine for the next 51 years. Dr. and Mrs. Lewis built this house in 1914 with an addition in 1948. It served as both residence and clinic. The city acquired the building in 2006 and in 2009 repurposed it as the nonprofit Landmark Center. And now join me as we head back to Fergus Falls to conclude our series on historic preservation. Well, here we are on South Mill Street in downtown Fergus Falls, certainly one of the streets that has several ornate historic buildings. Behind me, for example, is the old Fergus Falls Post Office, which was constructed in 1903-04. It is an excellent example of the Renaissance Revival style that was popular for public buildings in the first 2 decades of the 20th century. Constructed of brick, stone, and concrete, it features a high basement of cut stone, raised brick corners known as quoins, and a mix of window surrounds highlighted by keystones. Plus, the seamed metal roof is punctuated by ocular dormers. The building was doubled in size with an addition to the south in 1932-33. The style of the original design was skillfully duplicated under the direction of architect J.A. Whitmore. In addition to the main floor post office, there were federal courtrooms on the second floor. Now in 1928, the federal court moved its winter session to Detroit Lakes, north of Fergus Falls, due to complaints of inadequate hotel accommodations. This, of course, was a direct result of the June 22, 1919 tornado that destroyed or damaged much of Fergus Falls, including the city's largest hotel, the Grand. The city would have lost the federal court if not for the quick action of the Fergus Falls Commercial Club. They contracted with Vernon Wright, son of early Fergus Falls investor George B. Wright, to design a new hotel. A year later, the River Inn opened and the district court moved back to Fergus Falls. Put up directly across the street from the post office, the River Inn was designed in the medieval revival style. Its massive castle-like appearance is highlighted by a front entrance with wrought iron doors, corner turrets, and Bedford stone trim with red-faced brick. A stone otter relief near the roofline demonstrates Vernon Wright's use of symbolism on his buildings as a way to honor his hometown. Now, looking up at the stone relief just under the roofline, you see 2 otters holding on to each other's tails. A fish in the middle represents the abundance of fish in county lakes and rivers, and at the very top are 3 squiggly marks to represent the rapids along the Otter Tail River. When the hotel opened for business on February 2nd, 1929, it was the largest, most expensive building in Fergus Falls. It was the social center of town, boasting a downstairs ballroom, a coffee shop and restaurant on the main floor, ample display space for traveling salesmen, an elegant reception area, and 100 hotel rooms. After 57 years as a hotel, the River Inn closed its doors in 1986. It was then purchased by Mark and Wallace Orfield in 1986, and they conducted a remarkable restoration job, and the River Inn reopened in 1988 for housing and retail space. Now we'll conclude by moving to another Vernon Wright building in just a moment. Vernon Wright was an architect in Boston before moving to Fergus Falls to promote and develop the community and its power source, the Otter River, much like his father did years before, George B. Wright. Wright designed the building behind me as the general office for Otter Power Company in 1922. It continued as the general office until 1954. The front utilizes Harvard brick with Bedford stone trim. And much as he did with the River Inn, Wright incorporated stone reliefs into the building design. The symbols at the top of the three columns represent left to right a water wheel, a transformer, and an alternating current generator. They were modeled in clay by Wright and then carved by a stone cutter. Also note there are two names carved into the stone. The first is J.B. Francis, who was an engineer from Lowell, Massachusetts, who designed canal systems that greatly increased power availability for mills. The other name is William Stanley, who invented the induction coil that was the prototype for future transmitters that made practical the transmitting of electricity for consumer uses. Obscure? Perhaps, but the names and symbols indicate the type of pride Vernon Wright had for Fergus Falls. A pride that began with his father, George B. Wright, whose faith in the coming city established Fergus Falls. Well, thank you for joining me as we wrap up Historic Preservation Month. I look forward to seeing you next time on Quarantine History of Otter County.